Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is John Charles, President and CEO of Cascade Policy Institute, a nonpartisan policy research center in Portland.
Aw, isn't it nice to have your own little think tank institution?
I've read the staff report 4 times.
Wow.
It's possible that I had missed it, but I don't see a price tag here. All we know is it's greater than $500,000. How much greater than $500,000? That would be a good thing to know since you're being asked to vote for the acquisition. Second, I think the key part of the memo is page 2, 5th paragraph, in terms of your role as fiduciaries. TriMet would be purchasing the property in anticipation of the FTA full funding grant agreement, with the expectation that TriMet's cost will be recouped. However, in the event that there is no full funding grant agreement, the cost of this somewhere above $500,000 will be at TriMet's sole expense.
Sorry, but my understanding is that it's not TriMet where the money is coming from, that it's in fact the Oregon's lottery. And that if the lottery decides to want its money back because of the bridge and the project does not get built, this is a prime piece of downtown area real estate that should be able to be resold or otherwise the investment on it recouped.
So this is part of the opening gambit here to get the camel's nose under the tent for this $1.5 billion and counting project. And so this is a very key time for due diligence here. A couple points I'd like to make relevant. There is no realistic financial plan for the total project. There wasn't before under the 60-40 hypothesis. There's even less now under the 50-50 hypothesis. So you're being asked to spend an unknown amount of money for a project that you don't have a financial plan for.
That doesn't mean that they won't figure it out and that there will never be a plan. Is it a bit of a gamble now? Yes, but sometimes you have to gamble to get the best deal.
Second, for about the last 18 months, TriMet has either been planning for or implementing service cuts continuously. In my view, restoring the service cuts, especially on the frequent service lines that carry 57% of all the bus traffic, which represents 2/3 of all the trips on the system, that should be a much higher priority than spending $1.5 billion.
Sorry, but that's two separate things, as in the money being used for the Milwaukie project generally cannot be used for service. Now, in the future, there will be some impact to the general budget which could be used for service, but right now, no money from the general budget that could be used for service is going to the Milwaukie line. And it's hoped by the time bills come due, TriMet's financial picture will improve because of the economy.
On a slow train to a city that is only 4 miles southeast of the Ross Island Bridge.
If you have ideas to make the line faster, speak up and say so. But local travel generally is slow, and for many people it will be faster than it is now on transit, and maybe even faster than driving in the future. And since when was the Ross Island Bridge the starting measurement point, considering that you have to go a ways past that to get to any real destination? And it doesn't matter how long it is as long as it gets through a congested area.
Third, any federal funding at all is highly speculative since TriMet has reduced service on the Green Line and Yellow Line and will be reducing service again in September in violation of the commitment to run these trains for 20 years because you took the federal capital money.
I wouldn't use the word speculative to describe what I've seen the federal government saying about the project. And also, while TriMet may have reduced service, it certainly hasn't stopped it. And I don't I don't know if it can be shown that the federal government has specifically required a certain service amount to be done.
Now, FTA seems to have a hard time understanding or defining what operating trains for 20 years means exactly, but it seems to me you're sort of speculating that FTA will continuously look the other way, that they give you money for these federal projects, you promise to operate them for 20 years, and then you cut the service back. Well, maybe they might wake up one of these days and figure out that this is a bad place to spend money because you're not keeping up your part of the commitment.
And you seem to be speculating what the FTA and the feds think. The truth is that part of the grant agreement, there's a funding plan that must be done for operations to make sure that it's afforded. And also I know there's other places where they've thought about shutting down rail lines, but one of the issues was that they might have to give back the money to the feds that they got to build it.
Fourth, TriMet has at least $907 million of off-book unfunded liabilities for OPEB and pensions, which will probably be higher once your next audit comes out a month from now, and no exit strategy from that problem that I know of, and that problem is part of why you're engaged in service cuts, because all these unfunded liabilities are cannibalizing the general fund.
Do you have proof that that's what's costing them? Because I thought unfunded meant not being paid. And overall, it should be noted that they've had a double whammy, that the revenues have gone down because A, payroll tax has gone down because less hours are being worked, and B, when people lose their jobs, they commute less, so there's less ridership.
I think solving that problem should be a much higher priority than sending a slow train to Milwaukee. So my concluding comment is that in the staff report, at the end, it basically says, this is the only recommendation. If we don't do this, we impose hardship on the property owner, and I'm fully sympathetic of hardships on private property owners.
And I expect you to, that you would be, because maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me that you generally don't like government interference into private property and private business.
But I don't believe this is the only option. I think you start to go down this road, and pretty soon all these property acquisitions and decision points on light rail come to you, and it's, well, we have to do this. We have to do it now. We did all these things before. We have to do this.
So you're in favor of the cloud being left over property owners because they want to sell and they have a justifiable reason to sell, but they can't because it's known that the property might be needed for the rail line. And overall, what if someone comes by and does purchase the property but then holds TriMet hostage by not being willing to be such a willing seller? Because again, all these properties that they have purchased have been willing sellers that have a justifiable reason to sell.
No, this project has been a dream of planners in Portland for 20 years. You don't have to do this today. You can wait. You can undertake your own due diligence. You can ask more hard questions. Yes, the property owner will be inconvenienced. And I've been in that property. I'm very familiar with the building, with the whole neighborhood, with the whole route of light rail. You don't have to do this. You can ask questions. You can wait for a September briefing by the general manager on what exactly is the finance plan for this whole project before you take over a property that you may end up owning at your own expense at the same time. You're cutting service and having to go out for a bond measure for the one that you just approved. So I think in the whole picture, this really, really needs to be thought about in terms of how important is this versus everything else you're doing. Thanks.